Trust, surrender, and receive are the themes of my ayahuasca experience. And what I'm going to share with you is my day 2 or night 2 of ayahuasca. If you haven't seen my first night experience video, click on the link down below and watch that first video to give you some more context of my experience. Hey, what's going on? My name is Eric. They call me the Modern Mystic. And as always, I'm here to help you find freedom and abundance through all great things like plant medicine, community, through entrepreneurship and self-development. Now, before I talk about my experience with ayahuasca, I wanted to preface this conversation. Ayahuasca is a very powerful psychedelic which should only be used in very intentional, sacred, and controlled environments. It is not something to be taken recreationally, and she is to be taken with great reverence and great respect. For me, I chose to do my ayahuasca experience in a Native American property or a Native American reservation in Central California, and it was facilitated and hosted by a great tribal leader. His name is Chana from the Hunikun tribe from the Amazon. I spent a great number of years researching and looking into ayahuasca if it was right for me, and it was finally my time. If you could see a theme here, ayahuasca is not a game. It is not something to be taken at a party or at EDC or what have you, right? This is something to be done after you've done a great amount of research and have consulted with either your health professional or psychiatrist if this is the right option for you. Because ayahuasca can be an extremely beautiful experience, and it can also be a traumatic experience if you don't have the right people around you to help you guide the process properly. Now that I've gotten that disclaimer out of the way, I want to let you know that everything I'm going to share with you is my own personal experience and should in no way construe a level of expectation if you were to decide to do ayahuasca on your own. Right, so in the last video, I was talking about the first night, and I ended the first night saying, holy crap, what had happened? What's going on right now? And there's a second night. Wow. I've learned so many things of needing to let go, of opening up my heart, and really being able to let my brain quiet down and be back inside of my body. So if you can imagine, after night 1, I'm sitting in my car and I'm like, shit, this was a crazy experience. I got another night to go. So I go and grab some food and I recharge, get some rest, and we're ready for night number 2. Night number 2 rolls around, and actually these evenings start at 10 p.m. when it's dark out and go all the way till 6 o'clock in the morning. So this is an evening event. If you could imagine, the full moon is coming up. It's the full moon of the month, and it's just this beautiful, beautiful landscape. And tonight was really interesting, or the second night was really interesting because it was super windy. The first night, no wind. Second night, extremely windy. If you can imagine, you're rolling up into this desert, barren landscape. You see this gigantic teepee, and wind is cutting all around, sand is getting in your eyes, and all you can do is try to get into the teepee for coverage. And when I got into the teepee, the first thing that came to me was one of the translators came up to me and says, hey, Eric, tonight, if you can, you should stay in the teepee for the entire night. Don't go and escape and wander off to your car. And if I shared in that first video, my brain was just trying to shut down and it needed some quiet space. Another young lady came up to me who was wonderful. Her name is Kat. She said, Eric, tonight when the medicine comes into you, give yourself the opportunity to just let go. And just breathe into it as it goes into your heart, and just give yourself this opportunity to just embrace her and let the process happen. So I took those 2 things to heart. And I had a friend of mine too that I chatted with earlier that says, Eric, for tonight, give yourself this opportunity to just trust, surrender, and receive. Now those are 3 important words that come up quite often in this conversation. Trust, surrender, and receive. These are words that many of us should use as a mantra on our day-to-day because of all the things happening around us. There's so much abundance that's happening around us, but sometimes we don't trust the process. Sometimes we don't surrender to the abundance around us, and sometimes we don't allow ourselves to receive what is out there that is here for us, that we deserve, and we don't allow us to experience the full bounty of life. So trust, surrender, and receive are the words that kept coming up for me. So if you can imagine, we're in this gigantic teepee with the ceremonial fire, the sacred fire in the middle, and we're sitting around the outside fringes of this teepee, and Chana and his wife, who are the guides of the eating from the Amazonian spiritual leaders of the Hunikun tribe, they're sitting at the tail end of it. And we start off just setting off some prayer, and then they say, okay, who wants to drink the first cup of ayahuasca, and we're all coming up to get our first cup of aya. Grab my first cup, I sit back down at my seat, and the first hour, just like in the previous night, is meditative. It's very quiet. We're just kind of like going within, which is beautifully fantastic. Because like I said before, I've been part of ceremonies where after people taking the medicine, they're just chatting about their day and all this stuff, and it's very distracting, right? So this is a great time to kind of like just be quiet and introspective and give yourself this chance to notice the different things that are happening inside your body. So I'm sitting there, everyone's grabbing their cup, everyone has their drink of aya, and we're sitting, and then the music starts, right? This beautiful Amazonian music. As it starts, I could start feeling like different sensations happening inside of my body, right? The same nausea from the previous night, the different like feelings of flush blood going through my system, and pastel watercolors like going through my process. And as this is happening, instead of the previous night where my brain was trying to explain what was happening, trying to logically explain the unexplainable, instead all I was telling to myself was trust, receive, and surrender. And I was just breathing into my heart. I was visualizing the air that I was ingesting going right into my heart space. If you could imagine your heart chakra right here, and you're ingesting this beautiful air coming in, and you just visually see that as you close your eyes, you just visually see this air coming in and into your heart, right? It created a vastly different experience this evening. And maybe it was because I unlocked some things from the previous night, or maybe because I was more present this time, I have no idea. But as it was happening, I started feeling like energy coming into my heart, my lungs, and everything. And I started feeling like more energetics happening through my body. The music was coming, and today the music was not as intense, it seemed like. It was a little bit less intense. As the music was coming in, visions started coming up of my past experiences, my childhood, and all these things. And next thing I know, like I am in pure movement. The first thing that comes up was I started feeling incredibly sad. Like I started feeling this bubbling feeling of immense sadness, immense grief. And my whole body went into this motion of like going into fetal position, and in my hands covering my face like I was crying, and I could feel my face frowning. And as I was like, what is going on? But I was just trusting, surrendering, receiving. She and Mother Ayahuasca, Aya is a very feminine energy. So I'm gonna refer to her as she or her very often in this conversation. She was telling me that like I needed to process grief, but not only that, I was processing grief for the community. Now, as I elaborate in the first video, and if you haven't seen the first video, I highly recommend watching it, the link's in the bio. When you're in these experiences, inside of these ceremonies, everyone is working together as a community to heal and help the community. So some people are purging and puking, some people are farting, some people are burping, some people are laughing, some people were crying, some people were dancing. For me, at that point, I was grieving. No tears are coming out, no physical tears are coming up, but there's this immense sadness that was coming up. And she was telling me that I was processing the grief of not only my own, but of the community, which is this beautiful thing. As this wave of grief would come over me, the next thing that would happen is I would allow my body to just flow into motion again. And like I said in the previous video, I am very kinesthetic. I process through motion. I'm a big dancer. I absolutely love dance. All kinds of dance. Hip hop, break dance, EDM stuff. And in ceremony, I tend to flow, right? So I was in this like sense of flow. And as I was flowing, it was this interesting duality of sadness and grief to this beautiful creativity of dance. And what was being explained to me was, in order to have this beautiful expression of dance, you also must experience this sadness, right? So there's this duality of life. They call it duality because there's two spectrums, or there's multiple spectrums. You have to be sad to experience joy. You have to be in love to experience loss, right? Or you have to experience loss to really experience love. You have to experience the lows in life to really experience the highs in life, right? So same thing. To experience this creativity, I had to experience this great sadness. And as the sadness wave cascaded away like an ocean, in came this beautiful dance motion. Next thing I know, if you can imagine, I'm sitting in my chair, eyes are closed, and people all around, right? My body is moving and dancing, and without any sense of judgment, without any sense of fear, without any sense of is anyone going to judge me for my experience? Because everyone is doing their own thing and I just happen to be dancing. So I was like in this like pure dance mode and fully conscious, right? If you could imagine, you know exactly what you're doing, but you're not knowing what you're doing. My body was almost like being controlled by another primal force. The beautiful energy of ayahuasca was inside of me and it was manifesting in this flow, in this motion. And I'm rocking in my chair and I'm dancing as this music is happening. Next thing I know, like it's calling me to start moving out of my chair, out of where I'm sitting. And I start crawling. And next thing I know, I'm crawling like a cat. If you can imagine the way a cat crawls on all fours or, comes on all fours. And this is crazy, right? Because I'm allergic to cats. I love cats. I absolutely love cats, but I'm allergic to cats. So for my spirit to embody a cat was really interesting. So I'm like crawling on all fours, and next thing you know, like I'm dancing. If you imagine, like this is a big teepee. There's a fire in the middle, and I am on the outside edge of this. Next thing I know, I'm in front of the fire, praying to the fire and dancing to the fire like a cat as the music is playing. It was this incredible, like, I don't really even know how to explain it. Right? I was just surrendering to the process. I was trusting Mother Ayahuasca to guide me. I was surrendering to the process and I was receiving what I was supposed to be receiving. This knowledge of my embodiment of ayahuasca is through dance. My processing of my emotion is through dance. It's through movement, right? And everyone's different. The guy that was next to me, fully awake, the moment he drank ayahuasca, he clocked out, his body totally shut down, went to sleep and was snoring. And ayahuasca was telling me everyone processes differently. Everyone needs to go through their own motion differently. And this guy in his particular situation, the reason he was sleeping and snoring was his brain would not be able to handle what was happening. So physically, the mind would shut down to allow the spiritual healing to happen, if that makes sense. So anyway, so I'm dancing and flowing by the fire. And if you can imagine, the music stops as we're ready for cup number 2. And as the music stops, like now I'm crawling literally like a cat. Like I feel like I'm a cat. It's the craziest thing ever. I'm like a cat. And then they're like, okay, are you ready for cup number 2 of ayahuasca? So I'm crawling up to Chana, who's the spiritual leader and the guide of this experience, for another cup. And he looks at me and says, cat. Like him and his wife were calling in the cat, and apparently I was the cat. So I drink the ayahuasca and I not stumble back, but if you can imagine this stupor of this part consciousness, unconscious reality of going back to my chair and sitting back in my chair. And I'm sitting there. And again, ayahuasca is coming through me and the music starts coming up and everyone is in their process. Next thing I know, I have this dialogue happening in my head of ayahuasca is showing me that life is this divine comedy. Divine comedy, not necessarily just like in Dante's Inferno, the divine comedy, but the divine comedy of like I said, this duality of life of you have this beautiful music coming at you, and the music that's coming at you are the keys that are unlocking the beauty of life. Music is this beautiful thing that we've been given by God or the creator or whatever to really truly enjoy life. Music is so important to us. We have this beautiful music coming to us. It's being punctuated by people purging and yakking yeah. If you can imagine this beautiful music coming, punctuated by this crazy yakking, it's this hilarious juxtaposition of an experience of what is going on right now? And so Mother Aya was telling me that life is this divine comedy, and to truly enjoy life, you have to see all the spectrums of life, and you really have to laugh at life. Life is not something to be taken seriously. We're here to enjoy, and we're here to be part of the show. And each of us have our role. And she was telling me that I am the chosen one, just like we are all the chosen one, right? I am the chosen one to manifest her in this dance medium, where other people are the chosen ones to purge for the community. Other ones are the chosen ones to play the music, the guitars or the drums. Other people are the chosen ones to sing in the community. I was the chosen one to be the cat, apparently, the cat. And so it was interesting, there's this interplay now, because one of the conversations I had with myself is, do I have a big ego? And ego, I think a lot of us, we look at ego in a negative way. But ego, I think, is important to how we function as humans, but also it's important to look at ego in a way where it's just a piece of who we are. It's not something to shut down or push down like many self-development people may imply. It's just part of who we are, what we are experiencing in life. So if you can imagine now, like now I'm sitting in my chair, the music is happening, and in my head, I feel like everyone is there for me, and I am the one that they are trying to entertain as the great cat of the Amazon. And there's this really funny, like interesting interplay. What was going on in my head was I felt like I was talking to myself, but what was happening was I was speaking out loud to myself a voice of Mother Ayahuasca and receiving it in my ear. So as I was having this dialogue, I was saying to myself, listen to Chana's wife's voice. So it was a husband and wife that were the singers, right? She was the key, and her voice was feeding the cat. The rattle was teasing the cat, and I was the freaking cat. So there's this one point where Chana and his wife were coming from the front of the teepee or the back of the teepee to the front of the teepee where I was sitting. And as they were coming to me and playing the rattle and singing, I could feel like they were feeding me, like I was being fed milk. And the rattle was like imagine like a cat like pawing at like a yarn ball. That's exactly what I was doing. It was freaking crazy. So I was like pawing like I was a cat, like they were calling me to come up again. And I don't really even know how to describe this. And so like they went back and they sat back at their positions where they were singing after they did the circle, and then I was coming back out of my seat again like a cat. And then the music ended, and I was literally the cat. Like, you know how cats are like the assholes of the animal world, right? Like they're very self-important, but also they're the center of attention. Like that's exactly the persona that was embodying me. Like I was this freaking cat. Like the music stopped and they're like, okay, who wants to participate in a hot bay? We're gonna be singing some more. And I am like just around the sacred fire, like all the attention should be on me kind of thing. And I don't know, maybe that is the embodiment of it. I'm not sure. All I knew is I was consciously just being a witness to what was happening. I was trusting, I was surrendering, and I was receiving this. So this whole night just kept going, and what was really cool was like I began this whole dance party, I guess. Like everyone else started coming up and dancing. I almost like basically like I was collapsed on the ground, like just exhausted, but I was still moving because Aya was inside of me, like moving. And then luckily one of the guides came up to me and says, hey brother, I think you need to just sit down and rest. And at this point I go back to where my chair is, people are dancing, and in my head I'm like, I did this beautiful job of setting the example, allowing people to dance, and now I'm gonna allow them to shine and do their thing. And then now here's where this more internal dialogue came to me. The internal dialogue was Mother Aya kept telling me, my son, it is time to rest. It is time to rest. I know you want to show off and I know you want to go up and dance, but this is not your time right now, right? These are the lessons that were reminding me in my day-to-day life that I don't give myself enough time to rest. And I feel like I need to be on go mode all of the time. I need to be out there trying to impress everybody all the time. But no, I don't need to be. I need to give myself an opportunity to rest and also know when it is my time to shine and when it is my time to allow others to shine. It's this beautiful like conversations, duality. And so I'm sitting in my chair, resting. If you can imagine, I'm back in my cocoon mummy sleeping bag in my chair, just all cozied up, looking at people dancing in front of the fire as if it was my handiwork, like I was the one that allowed that to happen, which is this crazy, I don't know, crazy thought process. And just being a bearing witness to the entire ceremony. And at this point, what was happening was as I was sitting back and resting, I started having this dialogue with Mother Ayahuasca of like, what's next? And she had said certain things like to me, like, my son, these things there's so much more to learn about me. If you could imagine this conversation that I'm having with Mother Ayahuasca, like this like interesting interplay of telling me things like it's time to rest. Your moment will come to shine when it's your moment to come to shine. It reminded me of certain things of like, timing is everything. Right? Every experience I've had in my life up to that point led me up to that moment of ayahuasca and experiencing it. So many of us travel through life and we see other people with certain levels of success or certain things, and we're like, how come I am not there? How come I'm not this person? How come I don't have this house or this relationship, whatever? Each of us, we need to respect that. Each of us have our own path in life. And every experience that we have leads up to our next experience in life. And that's who we are as people, as we are as humans. So going in, comparing and judging ourselves and our level of achievement or success based on somebody else is just going to lead you down a path of disappointment, right? So Mother Ayahuasca reminded me that my path is my path. And sometimes I have to just rest and relax. Sometimes it's my time to work and play. Sometimes it's my chance to dance and show off. But we all have our own path. We all have our own divine timing to achieve what we're supposed to be achieving and what we're here on life to do. She had also told me that my son, there is so much to learn of me, right? In that, it gave me the realization that this experience, this unlocking with ayahuasca, was just the first of many in my future journeys with ayahuasca. And I was embodying the spirit of ayahuasca. My responsibility is to share the message of ayahuasca and to help other people understand the power of ayahuasca and how it can help, but also, what you should be considering before you even consider sitting with ayahuasca. So this whole experience is this beautiful symphony of dance and laughter and joy and of music and puking and purging. And it's this beautiful divine comedy. That's what life truly is. So as I'm sitting here resting and relaxing, the music starts coming down, the sun starts coming up, and the evening comes to an end as the day comes. If you can imagine, like, the wind outside is buffeting off the teepee, and the main shaman Chicana closes out the ceremony, thanks everyone for their experience. We're all super grateful for each other. The different Native American tribal elders are there that are also participating in the ceremony, just thanking the experience. And we're closing out this experience with great reverence and respect. Normally what happens at the end of these events is you're going around hugging everybody and you're collecting numbers and phone numbers and, like, how do we stay in touch? What's really interesting for me is I've been for many years a big people pleaser, a person that collects people's numbers to stay in touch with people because I wanted to feel accepted, loved, and embraced. Because that's something that I've always wanted to build for myself. What was interesting at this event is after this experience, I still wanted to go around and embrace everybody, but I didn't have the need, the desire, or the urge to grab everybody's number. There is something about this experience where Mother Ayahuasca told me, my son, it is okay to be misunderstood. It is okay not to need to please everybody. It is okay to do your own thing and be really careful and mindful of the circle that you encircle yourself with. So many of us, we try to, at least for me, seek approval from everybody and get acceptance from everybody. But that's very energetically expensive. It's exhausting. There's a lot of energy vampires out there, and there's a lot of folks that you need to be careful and mindful of, like, who you spend your time with. And this is a great reminder for me of, like, okay, be really careful of who you hang out with. You don't need to chase everybody's attention, everybody's number. If they come back to you in your cycle of life, it is within that divine timing. It is with purpose. Just allow things to naturally build up and occur as they are. So the event ends. I get back to my car and I'm like, what happened? What was that? Right? And then that's when the work actually began. As I was driving back home, I was processing everything that I'd processed. And still to this day, there are still things that come up as I am processing it. What's beautiful about Mother Ayahuasca is when you sit with her, that experience is an experience, number one, that you'll never forget. But secondly, that unlocks a lot of things that happen after that. And now the responsibility is how to integrate what you've learned. What are you gonna, at least for me, what am I gonna let go of? What am I gonna do to give myself time to rest? What am I gonna do to give myself time to shine and be a model for others, but also allow other people to shine and do their own thing? What am I gonna create the space that I need to give myself the opportunity to realize that I don't need to chase validation? After sitting with Mother Ayahuasca, I haven't really sat and spent time on social media much at all. Whereas before, if you look at my screen time, I would spend hours on Instagram, hours on TikTok, hours on YouTube, because I was chasing that validation and I suddenly didn't need it anymore. Now the question is, after you do these plant medicines like ayahuasca, like DMT, like a psilocybin or mushroom, how are you going to integrate that experience into your life to create lasting change and lasting improvement? And if I could close this part of my journey out, there's so much more that I'm going to share in future videos, but if I could close this journey out, the 3 words that I want to send to all of you and to you, the viewer, as a mantra is to trust, surrender, and receive. I am safe to trust, surrender, and receive. Those 3 words will never guide you in the wrong direction. You are here to trust, surrender, and receive, and allow the abundance of life, the experience of life, to just be part of this beautiful divine comedy that you have. With that said, my name is Eric. They call me the Modern Mystic. I put up YouTube videos once a week or occasionally with all types of conversations when it comes to entrepreneurship, self-development, plant medicine, community, how we can grow and help one another out. If you're new here, I would love it, love it if you could hit the subscribe button. If you got any questions on Aya or plant medicine or just my experience in life, pop them in the comment section below. I would love to hear your feedback and answer your questions. I'd love to hear from each and every single one of you. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button. I think I'm repeating myself. So with that said, thank you so much for experiencing ayahuasca with me. I hope this journey gave you some insight on ayahuasca, what it is, how it works. And again, I don't want to set an expectation. And number 2, this is a powerful, powerful plant medicine to only be used in the most reverent, sacred, and intentional ceremonies. It is not a recreational medicine to be used at like a party or anything like that at all. And choose wisely the people that you choose to share this experience with, or when you come to make your decision if sitting with Mother Ayahuasca is right for you or not. She's not for everybody, let's be honest. With that said, I hope to see you again soon, my friend, and have an amazing day. Take care. Peace.